almost everyone I spoke to at MedTrade wants to put the patient first, and that's phenomenal. But putting the patient first while being profitable is extremely challenging.
We've had a lot of conversations with attendees, other speakers there. Was there anything from your lens that stood out to you in the state of the industry, perhaps compared to prior years?
I know this next round of competitive bid is just another blip on the road because we have experienced it so many times. We know how to get through it. The theme that I heard is, how do we diversify? How do we maintain the business that we have? Is get ourselves out of the one-trick pony mentality.
How real is that shift right now? And are DMEs actually ready for value-based models?
No, they're not ready for value-based models. They are not. And no matter how much they try to get there, the gap is still understanding your story. But growth is not necessarily good growth. You need profitable growth. And the singular biggest gap in growth is we own the patient in this category or this therapy, and we never capture the growth on the adjacent therapies.
All right, we are live on the #1 DME podcast in the country, claim to fame. And today we have a very special guest, Wes Hopper from Why Success Happens. Welcome to the show, Wes.
Hey, thank you, Alex.
Welcome, Wes.
Hey, thanks for
Happy
having
to
me,
have
Wayne.
All right. So, Wes, we did see you speak at MedTrade, and your session hit on something a lot of providers are sort of struggling with right now, right? So growth without adding more costs. So we kind of wanted to bring you on the podcast to kind of unpack that and kind of just get in a little bit to that.
Awesome. Would love to chat about that today.
Great.
Cool. Before we jump into that, Wes, for those who weren't lucky enough to be at MedTrade and don't know who you are, tell us a little bit about yourself and kind of how you help companies.
Yeah, so about 30 years or so ago, I got in the DME market by way of working for both a pharmaceutical distributor, Cardinal Health at the time, and spent some time there. Then I moved over to the manufacturing side, worked for a couple large DME manufacturers. And then after a period of time, I thought, man, I sure love the distribution side. So I ended up back at McKesson, this time with medical surgical, and spent the last 15 or so years of my career before I opened up Why Success Happened, calling on some of the largest DMEs in the country, independent pharmacies, small DMEs, regional DMEs. And it always struck me in this DME marketplace as in the post-acute healthcare, the DME is the one business that touches all other aspects of the patient's journey. And they have a tremendous amount of influence and control and a huge opportunity to improve care and lower costs. So I've always been passionate about that. And with my own personal why, I always try to find out people's personal why. Why did they get into this business? And many times it's because they were caring for a relative or someone of that nature that had an issue. And when they went to try to find the solution of home medical equipment, it was very daunting. It was very convoluted. There was no streamlined process to simply get what the patient needed in a timely fashion. So very, very fortunate to have had a lot of experience with lots of different levels of this business, from payers, insurance companies, regulatory, every aspect of it. And I thought finally I'd open my own little business, little consulting business, and see if I couldn't help people streamline their own processes and answer their own why, and then figure out their how and figure out their what.
Awesome. Love it. Yeah, you have an extensive background. And, just coming off of MedTrade, during your talk, what would you say was the core message you wanted people to walk away with from that?
I think the core message is most business owners, leaders, and managers, they spend so much time putting out fires. They spend so much time dealing with the regulatory changes, planning for competitive bid, figuring out what software they should use, figuring out it's all jumbled and there's so many different priorities. And almost everyone I spoke to at MedTrade wants to put the patient first. And that's phenomenal. But putting the patient first while being profitable is extremely challenging, extremely. And so I'm trying to understand how to remove costs and get the right balance between your distributor relationship, your manufacturer relationship, and having other people work on your behalf to grow your business is one of the things that people ask a lot about, and trying to help them figure out how to do that.
It sounds like that's obviously something common that people are feeling is, how to make sure that you're putting the patient first and making sure that you're also being revenue focused as well, to your point. And I'm curious, after you came off the stage, what kind of feedback were you getting or reactions from providers after the session?
Again, I was actually a little bit shocked because actually somebody wanted to hear what I had to say. It was stunned me a little bit. But on a couple of the sessions I did, there was several people that came up afterwards and they said, wow, I hadn't thought about that before. What a good idea. What a good concept. And generally, I challenged each of them when they got back to their hometown on Monday, not to lose the enthusiasm, not to forget about doing the simple things are really the things that drive efficiencies and performances. And I've followed up with many of these folks so far. And the common theme I've gotten in my follow-up is, oh yeah, we meant to do that. But when we got back, we had this employee that was out, or this was, the plumbing went out in the toilet and I had to fix that, or all the things. So it's really, how do you organize? And what they kept asking is, how do we organize ourselves to where every single day we wake up and we're renewed with putting the patient first, modifying our culture, understanding how to stay laser focused to deliver on their why, yet continue to do what they have to do to be leaders and run businesses.
Wes, being at MedTrade this year, we've had a lot of conversations with attendees, other speakers there. Was there anything from your lens that stood out to you in the state of the industry, perhaps compared to prior years, or anything interesting you're seeing now?
The thing that stood out to me is all the ones I spoke with, I know competitive bid is this next round of competitive bid is just another blip on the road, because we have experienced it so many times. We know how to get through it. Yes, there'll probably be margin compression. Yes, there's a lot of concern and worries about remote item delivery and what's the long-term impact of that, the surety bond, what's going to be the impact of that. There's lots as far as the process and making sure to come up with the right offering. But even more importantly, the theme that I heard is, how do we diversify? How do we maintain the business that we have? And we've heard this before in med trades, but I think it's actually sticking this time, is get ourselves out of the one trick pony mentality. We're Medicare, we're insurance based. Look at how do you get to cash and be more of a balanced portfolio while still being compliant.
Right. That sounds like something that would make sense in this space, is trying to make sure that you're not relying on one thing. And I did want to touch back on your idea of lower cost to serve. What does that sort of mean in a DME business actually? What does it actually mean to a DME provider?
So what I always find fascinating is a DME provider, distributor, manufacturer, all the different players in the space, when they are in a negotiation, they say, I want to lower my price. I got to get a lower price. Well, you don't actually want to lower price. You want to lower cost. And if you look at a standard P&L, and I try to use this in all my seminars and discussions, the top line P&L is revenue or sales. The next line below that is cost of goods. And then you get to gross profit. Well, if you're only looking at lowering your price, you're only looking at one variable in your financials that deliver your overall value. So I like to look at it as commonly known to as the 4 Ps of marketing. Price is the last variable, but the other 3 variables, product, place, and promotion, That's where all your costs reside. And so if you can manage around place, logistics, the place that the product is served. So how can you use chatbots or bots to do the scheduling for getting your patient so your nurse, or if you have a delivery service, when they go out, they're actually ready with the right equipment. So you have fewer repeat trips, not turning on the truck just to deliver a walker. All those little nuances and leveraging technologies such as Nico Health and others to really understand your complete workflow. Another big cost driver is your customer service and your intake people. They're operating under multiple platforms. They may have Salesforce as a sales organization. They may have Oracle as their billing platform or AR platform or accounting platform. And then they have Nico as the patient-centric EHR. And how do you connect all those together? And that goes to, in my view, culture, keeping sales, marketing, operations, everyone aligned. And that takes organization. And once you're organized around understanding the P&L and all those variables below it, below price, now you can really hone in on cost. Now, not every cost to serve of every DME is going to be the same because you have different contracts, different denial rates, all those variables. But as you're working your business against your pro forma P&L, those cost reductions, they'll just jump up and they'll say, here I am. If you fix this, I can drop an extra 50 basis points to your bottom line, which is huge.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no, obviously, from the Nico Health side, a lot of providers are reaching out to us to, do the same thing, try to do more with less with technology. So that being said, that's obviously implementing a new technology. Where are you seeing some of the kind of the biggest unknown costs that, outside of the price, what would you say is maybe the unknown costs? I know you kind of touched on a couple of things like scheduling or, unnecessarily taking a van to deliver one small item. Is there one that kind of sticks out that a lot of people
The
overlook?
fascinating part to me in all the years I've been in this business, if you are a small regional or even national DME, you have inventory sitting on your shelves. And that is effectively capital sitting on your shelves. The objection that I hear often is, I can't afford to do that right now because I don't have the money or the time. It's tied up in other projects. Yet, if you clean up that capital inventory, now you have money available to you, whether or not you sell it, you discount it. And I can't tell you the number of times I've gone into facilities and I'll see the same piece of equipment that has been there for 5 years collecting dust. Even if you sold it for 50 cents, it's 50 cents that you can apply to something else, right? So now free up that capital, free up that money. And then you ask very specifically, what are a couple of reoccurring themes? It's lack of coordination between departments or a lack of understanding of what turning on that truck really costs. And, got to take care of the patient. So I'm going to run this out there, and that delivery or that UPS or that one-time occurrence, you lose the money on the entire rental for a long period of time because of that one emergency. That you got to take care of the patients, understand that. And the other common theme is, well, I don't want to frustrate my referral source. I got to take care of my referral source. Having legitimate business conversations with your referral sources, walking in with the numbers and saying, I took care of these 7 emergencies for you last Friday at 7:00 at night. This is what it cost me. And not being afraid to have those conversations, i.e. business reviews, business conversations.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Wes,
that's
you were
great, Wes. That's actually a perspective we haven't yet heard on the podcast. So that's exciting to hear. It's It's a different angle. I don't think a lot of people might be thinking. Maybe they are, but it hasn't come up on this. But I think it's an interesting point you mentioned
So
there.
I'll throw one more thing out
Mhm.
for you, and then I'll let's get back to your question. One of the
Mhm.
things I've never understood is DMEs expect their manufacturer reps to come in and call on them. DMEs expect their wholesale distributor reps to call on them, work with them. Many DMEs have a sales force, yet they don't require the wholesaler and the manufacturer to do ride-alongs with them, calling on hospitals, health systems, wound care clinics, whatever business they're in. So if, let's hypothetically say I'm going to use preferred manufacturer brand A. The only way you get to be a preferred manufacturer brand A in my portfolio is once every 6 months, your rep is riding with me to these referral sources, and then they're going to be making sales calls on my behalf. That's lowering cost to serve because you're getting salespeople that you don't pay for to bring more
It's
business.
interesting.
That's cool.
Another unique angle for sure.
Yeah, usually, we don't really get the consultative angle, how to improve businesses. It's usually people that are kind of like running the business or running or from a vendor side and how they're trying to improve business. So yeah, it's definitely interesting to see this other side of the aisle where you're trying to improve these CME businesses, which is it's very cool. And we appreciate that so far. So I did have a couple other
Sure.
questions. So, during your talk, you did mention expanding access and value-based referrals. How real is that shift right now? And are DMEs like actually ready for value-based models?
No, they're not ready for value-based models. They are not. And no matter how much they try to get there, the gap is still understanding your story. I mean, I pay a lot. I've been in sales since I was born. I mean, I have paper route, all that crap. I've been in sales and sold encyclopedias door to door, North Dakota. You guys don't even know what an encyclopedia is. Okay. So understanding the sales process goes back to the 4 Ps. And this is going to tie into value-based care and value-based contracting and truly understanding how to get payers to pay for value. They're willing to pay for value, but the story has to be more than, well, you're going to limit access and you got to get off of the defensive. You got to get on the offensive. And how you get on the offensive with value-based care is understanding the defense. Any sports analogy that you want to put in here, but I'm going to really frustrate Tennessee, Georgia, Florida, and other fans, but I'm a big fan of Nick Saban. It's the process. How do you process this? So you're game planning going into a call, into a meeting with a payer, and you had better study the film. And what I mean by that is you better look at your own numbers. You better look at your competitors' numbers. And you better do a full SWOT analysis because the payer has, and I've called on Optum and United and Aetna and Humana. I've been in all their buildings. They have a whole lot more analysts than we do. They have MIT, Harvard, and Stanford, MBA, and doctoral financial numbers crunchers. And when you go into them and say, well, you're going to limit, they're going to pull up data. And how do you overcome that objection? If you know how to overcome that objection using your 4 Ps, i.e. the first 3 of the 4, what is unique about your story, your place? Promotion is not buy one, get one free. It's actually your story. Promotion also can be called teaching, educating, those kinds of things.
Mm-hmm.
And you've got to be totally buttoned up in your story to secure value-based care contracting.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't believe 99% of the DMEs in this country are ready for that.
Interesting. I've heard the story part too from another guest we have, that the story of the data is critical, but another interesting perspective for sure. It got me thinking, if they're not ready for that, when we're thinking about growth, where do you normally see the problems, right? Is it sales? Is it operational? Is it leadership? Any thoughts on that?
Yeah. So I think growth for growth's sake, you can get growth because the market's growing at 3 to 5%, maybe even 15%, depending on the categories you service. But growth is not necessarily good growth. You need
Hmm.
profitable growth. And the singular biggest gap in growth is we own the patient in this category or this therapy. And we never capture the growth on the adjacent therapies. So sales, operations, leadership, the culture has to be, what else can I service the patient? How else can I serve the patient? Because it's always fascinated me. Nico Health, inside of all the patient records, you have their birthday, you have their lots of personal information. And you can ask, is it okay if we send you some updates and information? And once they give you updates, the patient gives you approval to update and provide information, you can also get the caregiver's information because that's in your modules as well, right? So
Hmm.
where is the coordinated communication of your patient is hypertensive? If they're hypertensive, there's likely going to be a need for, and that stems from operations, clinical, leadership. And so focus growth to grow profitable, because if you just add that one more widget to the delivery, think about how you reduce your cost to serve.
Yep.
So there's no simple answer to that. It's a coordinated
Hmm.
marketing approach, sales approach. And, a side story, one of the reasons, there's two reasons I name my business Why Success Happens. Number one, it's my initials, so I can write off a monogram on my shirts.
I
Oh,
love
there you
that.
go. That's cool.
Number two,
I didn't think about that.
it's,
You know what, Wes? They're my initials too. So
yeah.
yeah, look at the bottom: Wayne Hudson, Wes Hopper.
There you go.
So number two is why success happens. If you break that down, you have to understand the why. And if you understand the why, you also have to understand the how and the what. And once you understand those three components, really understand it, you can have success with intention and purpose when you're calling on the payers, when you're calling on your referral sources.
It's sort of like a perspective change, right? A mind shift change.
Exactly. I always ask this question as well. How many of us are routine? I would bet you both a large lunch at the drive-through window of your choice the next time I see you. You came into your desk the same way you came into your desk last Monday. You came in the same way you came in last Tuesday, same Wednesday. So people walk into their places of business and they go through the same door every day. They take this, unless there's traffic, they drive the same route every day to go to work. How much are they missing by going in the back door, going in the side door?
It's
Right.
like
You kind of just get this in the same, like, just routine of things. You're not really thinking outside the box. You're not allowing your brain to think in any other way besides the straight and narrow, the typical way of thinking. Yeah, no, it's an interesting perspective.
yeah, I was actually reading something along the same lines. It was like called luck surface area. So
Hmm.
the more interactions you have, like it could even be if you walk to work, walking a different route, or maybe instead of sitting in your office all day, go sit in a coffee shop, just because you're expanding the different places and the different people and seeing different things. So I get what you're saying for sure.
So
It's interesting.
one last quick thing, and on a personal note, I'm very blessed. I hold a patent for inventing and designing a merchandising system. And I've never had an original idea in my life. And this patent came from a tie rack. So you never know where
Interesting.
ideas are going to stimulate you or where you're going to come up with it.
Yeah.
And if you're not open to, and this is where I'd love for DMEs, whether they use my services or anybody's services, Nico Health, commit to 1 hour a week, every single week, as a leader, as an owner, as a manager, as a customer service person. Commit to jotting down ideas, thinking about what am I going to do differently to change the outcome.
Yeah, no, I think that applies to everyone, not just even DME. I think that's just a way that humans in general should be thinking about their day and their life is like, don't get caught up in the mundane. Think about how to do things a little bit different. And yeah, you have a great point right there.
And because of time, I know I'm just going to touch on AI. You may have wanted to touch on AI as well.
Please do. It comes up on every episode.
It's critical to embrace AI. And the best way that I've found for me to embrace AI is whether I'm writing an email or whether I'm coming up with an idea, I'm putting a PowerPoint together, I'm building out my story. Put it in AI and use generative AI. Take that same thing that AI kicks back to you, put it back in, and then build your own style within AI or ChatGPT or whichever tool you're using. But don't let it own you. You have to own it. In other words, as I view it, whatever it gives you, it's just idea generating. It helps you think of something.
Mhm.
I hadn't thought about it or hadn't thought about it in that way. And it's so much faster. It's so efficient. Then take it and make it your own again, i.e. value-based care, all the things we've talked about here. SWOT analysis, learn what all these other people are doing, learn what's been successful. And the salespeople that come in and say, hi, how are you doing? Anything new today? I'd kick them out. I'd throw them out right now. There's nothing new there.
Wes, one last question for you, then we'll move into our fun rapid fire section. What's something you wish more providers asked you after your session?
Prove it.
I like that. Simple.
Prove. Give me your proof points. Give me, how does this actually work? Prove it.
There it is. Maybe
Right
that's the
on.
title of this. I think Alex has a good title for this one. Prove it's not bad.
Yeah, I'll make sure that it hits. All right, if we're ready to move on to rapid fire,
Already.
Wes, usually it's sort of a this or that sort of section, right? Basically the way we close out every podcast. If you're ready, we'll get started.
Already.
All right, cool. Uber or drive yourself?
Drive myself.
Podcast or music in the car?
Music.
Late checkout or early check-in?
Early check-in.
What's your walk-up song before you get on stage for a talk?
Another one bites the dust.
Text back right away or I'll get to it later?
Always delay.
Cook at home or order every meal?
Cook at home.
Beach vacation or city trip?
Mountains.
Last one, loud restaurant or dead quiet one?
Say the last one again.
Loud restaurant or dead quiet restaurant?
Loud.
Boom. Awesome, Wes. Thanks so much for joining us today. For anyone who's looking to get in contact with you or wants any more information about your business and wants to learn more, what's the best way for them to reach out to you?
Easiest way is my email, and it's a simple Gmail account, WD, my wife's name, Diane, or wdhopper@gmail.com. And then my phone number is 540-247-4677.
Awesome. Wes, thanks so much for joining today. We appreciate it, and we love to have you back on for another session.
Awesome. Love to do it.
Thanks, Wes. Appreciate it.
Thank you.